Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome for the first time. I am so excited to be making this video today. I have been wanting to make this video and tell this story literally for so long, and it's finally the perfect time to tell this story because it's the perfect combination of like October, Halloween, spooky time, and I feel like Halloween, besides being all about spookiness, is all about kind of pranking and, you know, trick or treat. It has the trick part in it, right? So it's like the perfect time to tell the story, and I'm so excited to finally be able to tell you guys the story of the best prank I've ever pulled in my life. So this is the story of how I recreated the Blair Witch Project in order to freak out a bunch of preteen children. So first of all, something you should know about me is that the Blair Witch Project is one of my favorite movies ever, especially in the horror genre. I've seen it so many times. I think it's so brilliant, and I love when there's like a good story about like the making of the movie that goes along with the movie, like how they created like an entire hoax and everything. Like, I love stories like that, so this movie kind of has it all for me, and I really love it. So that's just something that you should know about me going into this. So let me tell you a bit of backstory about how I pulled off this prank. When I was a kid, I started going to a sleepaway camp, and there was a department at this sleepaway camp called the Outdoors Department, and they would put on these night hikes, and they were kind of legendary among us like small children because we weren't allowed to go on them. So we would hear all these stories about how like all the older kids were like, they were so scary that all the older kids would cry and like pee their pants. And I wanted to go on one so badly. Like, I love things like that. I love being scared and like scary hikes and stuff like that. I wanted to go on one so bad. Unfortunately, by the time I got old enough to go on one as a camper, because I went back to the camp every summer, by the time I was old enough to go on one, they didn't do them anymore, and they had kind of been forgotten about. I wasn't gonna let that happen. So when I was finally old enough to come back as a staff member, so what I did, I came back as a staff member on the Outdoors Department. So what we did things like, you know, taking kids on hike, we did like the ropes course, like, you know, zip lines and stuff like that, built fires, all that stuff. I'm, believe it or not, pretty outdoorsy. I feel like I don't really show that on my channel, but I really enjoy doing stuff like that. And I told my boss, I was like, listen, you guys used to do these night hikes when I was a kid. I really, really want to bring them back and live that childhood dream of mine. And she was like, go for it. And I got the all clear, and this is what I decided to do. So back to the Blair Witch Project. The beginning of the Blair Witch Project takes place in a town called Burkittsville, Maryland. And you kind of, in the movie, they go around and they kind of interview people in the town, and you can kind of see a little bit of this. It's a really, really, really small town, and it is a real town. It really exists. And it was about 45 minutes away from the camp that I was working at in Maryland. So obviously this is perfect, right? Like, I had to do a Blair Witch hike in Burkittsville, Maryland. So in order to prepare for this, me and a bunch of other staff members went to go scout Burkittsville to, you know, see the area. This town is creepy in real life. Like, let me tell you, it is empty. Like, we didn't see people outside, and most of the town was like a graveyard, like literally like graves, like huge graveyard, and then like a couple stores and like, I don't know, maybe some houses. Like, it's small. It's a lot of cornfields. So I want to let you know that we did scout the area ahead of time. A lot of prep went into this. I spent so much of my time while I was, you know, working at this camp prepping for this hike. We did decide to do to bring older kids on the hike rather than like younger ones. So sort of like how I wasn't old enough when I was a kid to go on it, I did the same thing where I wasn't going to bring the really little kids because I wasn't trying to traumatize them. I just, you know, wanted to scare some. Also, I feel like 13-year-old, I think we brought like, around like 12, 13-year-olds. That's like the most annoying kids. That's like the kids that you want to scare, you know? So that was the age we decided to bring, and we had people sign up, and I was really excited. And what we did is we brought them all to Burkittsville, Maryland. We sat them down kind of in this field, and we read them the story of the Blair Witch as if it was a real story. Also, these kids had not seen the Blair Witch Project, which was crazy. I forgot to mention, I did not tell them this was a Blair Witch hike. I told them this was a night hike. And as I said, the legend of these night hikes, these scary hikes that outdoors used to put on, had disappeared by this time. It had been, you know, I'd been going to this camp. I think there was like 10 years had already passed since, you know, I was a kid hearing about these hikes. So we did not tell these kids what this hike was. We told them we were going to go on a hike at night and not to bring flashlights. To make it extra scary. So that's all the kids knew. So we brought them to this field, we sat them down, and we read aloud the story of the Blair Witch that the hoax was apparently based off of. So this wasn't, you know, the story of the movie. This was like what the movie was supposed to be based off of. We read them that story and, you know, basically said, this is the area that we're in. Here's what happened. Here, you know, this woman was abandoned for witchcraft and, you know, left in the forest in the cold to die. You know, here's all the sightings of her. You know, here's, you know, the story about the boy who claimed he saw her and then, you know, was writing witch language and, you know, a mental institution, all this like, you know, legend that they created. And so we told them the story as if it was true. And the kids, and while we told, it was actually daylight when we told them this, the sun is setting while we were telling them the story. So the sun, it's finally set, it's dark out, we've told them the story, we're like, all right, let's go into this woods where we just told you this thing happened. I should also mention the Blair Witch Project was not filmed in this woods that we were filming at. The woods that we were filming at was part of the Appalachian Trail. The Blair Witch Project, well, it takes place in Burkittsville, Maryland. Only the beginning part where they show the town was actually filmed in Burkittsville, Maryland. The rest of it, all the forest parts, were filmed elsewhere. So this was not the actual forest, which is kind of a bummer, but it was still the town, and we still, you know, we did show them around the town, I feel like. I'm trying to remember. I think we did take them into the town and show them the graveyard. So I think they did get that town, the creepy town, like feeling and experience before we brought them to the field. But yeah, we brought them to this field, we told them the story, and then we basically said, all right, we're all gonna go on this hike now that we've told you this scary story of what happened in this forest. And then in my amazing stroke of genius, if I do say so myself, what I did is our camp had this safety thing that the kids were all very familiar with, where each kid is assigned a number, and to make sure that no kids are lost, at points you can yell count off, and each kid has to say their own number in order. So once you get to the end, you know all the kids are there because they've all just counted themselves. So I gave them all a number to count off like they're all used to, and I gave myself the last number. So I think I brought like, I think I brought like 20 kids or something like that. I think I was number 21, something like that. But I brought into the forest, so I said, I'm 21. Once you hear my number, you know that everyone's here and we can continue. You know, we're going into the woods at night, it's gonna be dark, it's gonna, you know, be dangerous, we don't wanna lose anyone. So all the kids had their number, it was fine. Let's go into the woods. None of them had flashlights, as I said. I had a flashlight, and some of the other staff members with me had a flashlight, and we brought them into the woods. Another funny thing to note about this is when we scouted the area earlier, we were concerned about bringing a bunch of kids into the woods. We were afraid maybe they would scream, maybe they would cry. You know, we didn't want to create any kind of panic, especially because this was on the Appalachian Trail. And even though all the hikers had passed at that point, because the Appalachian Trail is done, like all the hikers are in certain sections at once. So they had already passed at that point. We weren't too worried about campers or hikers being on the trail, but we were still a little bit concerned. So we went to a park ranger and told the park ranger, you know, like, listen, if we're bringing kids into the woods, what do we need to be concerned about? What do we need, you know, we don't want the police to be called, we don't want park rangers to be called, you know, we don't want to cause any trouble. And this lady who we were talking to, like, had no idea what we were talking about and started warning us about goats. She was like, yeah, there's all these goats on the trail, be careful, like, you know, don't bother the goats. Like, we're like, what are you talking about? There's no goats. We didn't see any goats. But like, okay, we're concerned about goats. I don't know why I'm telling, that was just like the weirdest little side thing that happened. But yeah, we brought the kids into the woods, you know, hiked for a bit, pitch black dark, you know, only the staff members have their little flashlights. We didn't have flashlights, we had headlights, so like the kind that attach to your head, we have those. So I had one, and then the other, I think I think maybe we had 3 staff members with me, and then I had a bunch of staff members like in the woods, right? So they were just waiting for us. The kids did not know that these staff members had already driven over. They were already in the woods waiting. So, you know, we were walking with the kids, and we bring them to this little clearing that we had found earlier and had gone earlier and set up all of the little sticks and rocks from the movie. So like the little rock piles and then the little stick figure people. I had made a bunch of them earlier and gone and planted them in this clearing. So we brought them into the clearing. You know, they see all these stick figures and rocks, and they're like, that's weird. And we're like, huh, someone must have just been, you know, making stick figures and hanging out, you know, whatever. Let's go, let's count off. And we counted off. We were all there. Let's keep going. We keep hiking. And at this point, I had been in this woods a couple times at this point to scout and everything. I knew it pretty well. So this is the point where I wandered off. I turned off my headlight, just stopped walking. I was the last one in line. As I said, I was the last number. We had them all lined up by number. I was the last one. I just didn't go with them. And I ran out of the woods. And at this point, I was remembering, this is actually kind of another like side story. So there was this guy who worked with us. His name is Bob. Bob is quite a large person, and he was missing most of his teeth. And I very first met him when he walked up to me one day and said, hey, you're rather small. And I was like, yes I am. And he was like, there's a dead cat under one of the cabins. Can you crawl under there and get it? And I was like, no. So that is how I met Bob. And one day Bob walked up to me and he said, hey Daniela, there's something I want you to know. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, if anyone in our group is going to be attacked by a bear during, you know, our work here in the forest, it's going to be you, because you're a woman and you have like these like hormones that the bears can smell and they take it as a challenge, and you're also very small, so you're a very easy target. And I was like, thanks Bob, that's really, I'll think about that, thank you. So back to present, where I am walking through this woods alone at night, pitch black dark. I couldn't turn on my headlight because the kids would notice that I was running off, right? I actually did wander off the path and into a tree at one point, like a huge tree, like a big oak tree. Like I walked right into it. It was that dark, but I knew it was impossible for me to get lost in the forest because I'd been in it so many times at that point. This isn't something I would recommend doing if you're just like new in a forest, like know how to get out of it, you know? But I did know that. So there I was wandering around in the dark thinking, you know, Bob says I'm gonna get attacked by a bear. This is great. So I walk out of the forest, and what's going on with the kids is that they have at this point reached another clearing that I had found and had been asked to count off again, and realized that I was not there. And they freaked out. I wasn't here for this. We actually GoPro'd it all. I don't have the GoPro footage, and it wasn't that good anyway. Like, we didn't really get as much good footage as I would have liked to. But yeah, I wasn't there. The kids are like, oh my god, where's Daniela? You know, she's our staff member, counselor. She's supposed to be here. She's supposed to be the last number. And she's gone. And at that point, I had planted another headlamp, so another one of the flashlights. I had planted it in the woods, like way far off the path. Like way far down. And so the staff members were like, let's go look for her. There is, you know, like I feel like I see her headlight over there. Maybe she just, you know, stepped off to use the bathroom. Maybe something, you know, happened. I think I see her headlight. Let's go follow it. And so they took them off path to, you know, it's a path that we had scouted earlier. We scouted everything ahead of time. Everything was very planned. So they said, let's take her, let's, you know, go off path, let's go look for her. So they went off the official, you know, Appalachian Trail path into the forest, where I had again planted even more staff. There were a lot of staff involved in this. I can't remember. I think there was like probably like 15 staff members total who had to work on this. Maybe even more, it might have been 20. I took basically the entire staff of outdoors that we had, both the girls' camp and the boys' camp. Like, I took like all their staff, all of the staff, like, to pull this off. It was a lot of people. But yeah, they were planted in the woods, and I had instructed the staff members not to be seen. So whereas like for a Halloween night hike, you might have jump scares where people would, you know, be dressed up as zombies and like jump out and scare you. I wanted to psychologically torture these kids. Like, I wanted them to think that this was real. And I knew if they saw, you know, once they saw a jump scare, once they saw a person in the woods, they would know that I had planted people and it would all be over. So I wanted it to be way more subtle than that. I wanted them to just have that, you know, that feeling of being watched. That's what I wanted. I wanted, you know, I wanted my staff members to break sticks, you know, so that there'd be like random cracks. You know, I wanted them to, you know, just create that feeling that the kids were not alone in the woods, which of course they weren't. But yeah, I wanted these kids to really feel it and really feel scared. And what I found out later is that the staff members who were leading the kids actually went off the path that we had scouted earlier and like placed people on. They actually had gotten a little bit lost for real and wound up way too close to the people in the woods that I had planted who were wearing all black. But again, it was so dark out that they couldn't see them. So I think they literally, I heard later, like the kids could, I think, even hear people walking and like, you know, hear their breath, but couldn't see anyone. So they were freaking out. They were so scared, you know, because they were missing a staff member. They're in this woods off the path in the pitch black dark, looking for this headlight, which they found. There's nothing, you know, I'm not there. They're like, oh my God, this is definitely Daniella's, you know, headlight. Where is she? We got to get out of this woods. So they bring them out of the woods to a road, like a main road. And they're like, okay, well, we were supposed to meet, you know, the van to pick us up, you know, much more farther down because, you know, we were on a hike. So let's go walk down this road and, you know, go meet the van. And, you know, they have a radio, we can call for backup. You know, we can call someone to help come find Daniella. So they walk down the road and they come to an abandoned church, which we had found earlier. I do have pictures, I have pictures of this church. It had a little graveyard attached to it, and it was, yeah, this abandoned, completely falling apart church that had all this like devil graffiti inside of it. Like, we didn't even place that there, like all these like pentagrams and stuff, that was already there. And the church was 2 floors. So what we did is the staff members brought the kids around to the bottom floor, which had an entrance. And so they brought them around to the entrance of this church. They were like, let's go in, let's have a look. And if you've ever seen the Blair Witch Project movie, you'll know that there's a scene where they walk into the, you know, the house where the Blair Witch is, and there's like someone standing in the corner. And then also in the legend, there's this like legend that this kid was standing in the corner saying, never give in, never give in, never give in. So I wanted to do that. So I was in there waiting for the kids behind a door. So there was a door leading to upstairs, right? I had the doorknob, I had it tied to a string, and I had another staff member sitting just like around the stairs holding the string so that the kids, I also had another, wait, and remember, I had another staff member upstairs too. So then the kids walk in, the staff member upstairs dropped a door, because there was like, we just found a door on the ground. They dropped a door, so there's huge loud like thump coming from upstairs, and the kids think they're alone in this abandoned church. So they're like, oh my God, what's that sound coming from upstairs? Then when kids all come in, I had the person on the stairs pull the string so that the door would slam closed, and I'm standing behind it staring at a corner going, never give in, never give in, never give in. And these kids are freaking crying. They're so scared. Oh my God. And at that point I had the van that was supposed to pick them up. The van pulls up, the kids run out of this church. They hop into the van, and apparently, like I saw in the GoPro footage later, they're all saying like, what about Daniella? Like, we should take Daniella. And our staff members are just like, no, just get in the van, save yourself, we'll worry about Daniella later, just go. So they thought they abandoned me in this church. And so the van with all the kids drives away. And of course, all the staff members gather up together, you know, all the ones that were left that weren't leading the kids, you know, gather together, we're laughing, we're having the best time. We all go back to the camp where the kids are in, you know, the cabin, just like crying and being freaked out and thinking they abandoned me. And I personally wasn't sure if I wanted to show the kids that I was okay or not. So, but we decided eventually, like, you know, we had this discussion beforehand, we decided eventually, like, yes. Sorry, my camera stopped recording for a sec. But yeah, we didn't want them to think like I actually died or they actually abandoned me because we were afraid we'd get like calls from parents or something. So I did at that point you know, walk into the cabin and show them like, look, it was fake, I'm okay, I didn't really get kidnapped by a witch and get possessed standing in this church chanting. And they were really great sports about it, because they were pretty freaked out. There were some tears, and it was I feel like it's my greatest accomplishment thus far. Like, that feeling of freaking out those kids and giving them that experience that I wanted so badly when I was a kid. Like, I'm so happy that I was able to do that. And I was really flattered at how happy they were that I was alive. I didn't think they'd actually care or believe it. I was shocked that they even believed it, but they did. And they, like, I don't know, it worked, and it was so much fun. And then they wanted to see the GoPro footage, of course, after they found out that, you know, it was all fake and that, you know, we had planted everything. And we gave them all hot chocolate and watched the video of them freaking out. And I wish I had that footage so badly. I don't know what happened to it. But yeah, I tried to do this recreation 3 times. It only worked once. It only worked the first time, and the other 2 times it unfortunately got rained out. So that is the one time that it was successful, and it is, as I said, one of my top greatest accomplishments ever. And looking back, I cannot believe that they let me do it, that they let me have that much staff for one night, that they, you know, I used every van that we had, I think. Like, you know, because we had, you know, vans to transport the kids, and I used a bunch of them because we had to have a bunch of kids, and then I had to be able to transport staff. And just the coordination that it took to coordinate that many staff members, where they had to be, you know, so many moving parts of staff members moving around, like me having to move to the church, and we had some other staff members who had to move to different places, and just making sure everything was set up, making sure the headlamp was in the woods, you know, building all those sticks and rock, like, stacks and putting those in the woods, and just getting everything together to do this hike was just, I don't know, I feel like I've peaked a little bit. So yeah, that's my story of my Blair Witch hike recreation prank. Really the best and probably only prank I've ever pulled. I'm not really like a pranky type person, but this was the type of prank, this was what as I said, what I wanted as a kid. So I felt like you know, these kids deserved to get that. I really wanted to bring back these night hikes. I don't think they're back. I think after I left camp, night hikes may have died with me. I don't know. But yeah, I was so glad that I got this experience, and I'm so glad I got to tell it to you guys finally. I don't know, would you guys go on a night hike? Would you like do this? Comment below like the scariest thing that's ever happened to you, like supernatural, I guess. Or it could be like fake supernatural, like what I did, but something, you know, along that vein of like what's like a creepy thing that happened to you. If you want to see more of me, you can follow me on other social media. I have basically all of them. I've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, just started Twitter. I just started streaming on Twitch again. I've been having a lot of fun streaming on Twitch. I did this makeup look live there. So if you were watching me this morning, you've seen this look, you're familiar with it. But I've been having so much fun with that. I've been also trying to create a lot more Halloween content. So be sure to follow if you like this kind of content. Be sure to give this video a like. As I said, leave a comment. And I will see you guys in my next video. Have a spooktacular Halloween month. Bye!